Hello and welcome. This is January 1st, 2025. Welcome to a new year. And I'm coming to you from inside of Meeting of the Crossroads, part of the InnerCartography, Applied InnerCartography Roots membership. And this is our open time with the community and sharing and coming into a grounded space together and hearing kind of what's happening in the collective soup pot, so to speak. And this is the transit part of our session. And we wanted to invite you into this space and time as we delve into a little bit about what's going to be happening, what we're inside of, what we're dancing with right now as an energy. Okay, so we're sitting here inside of the sun and the earth being in gate 38 and 39, right? So we're straddling this Capricorn Cancer energy. It's this very this cold wintry time of the year. In this part of the hemisphere, we're here in the Northeast, and we're looking at a lot of this root-based energy. We're looking at what it is. What is it that we're going to be standing up and fighting for? What is worth struggling for? What is worth, what is purpose-filled for ourselves? And that's kind of like what that sun energy, that 70% of the neutrino stream. Remember, the sun being our, to this planet, most impactful level of information that's being streamed through. That is its lesson for us. Deepest lesson at the moment is, where is our tenacity? Where is our bravery? Where is our courage? Where are we, and can we be a seeker of life, purpose, and meaning? Even if that also means telling someone to off, chucking something in a bucket, saying no thank you, saying yes please, may I please have another. All of these pieces and places, we can be many different kinds of fighter. We can fight quietly, we can fight loudly, we can fight violently, we can fight lovingly. Fighting is like a kind of friction, right? You're gonna what happens? You rub your palms together really hard. You create this heat in the center between your hands, right? That's a result. That's a third effect that's tangible. Anybody can rub their hands together and feel something happening. Well, that is the energy of this energy of the 38. This sun energy, I'm gonna just switch over to the images real quick. So I work with a synergy of astrology. So we're looking at that sun, that gate 38 we were just talking about, is sitting right over here in Capricorn, right? We're sitting in the Capricorn, we're sitting in the 6th house. And so we're sitting inside of this energy. I'm just going to flip over to here just so you can have a visual. This is one of my images. So that 6th house energy right here, this is all about the basics of our daily life. So this Capricornian energy of what are we willing to fight for? What are we willing to struggle for? Where are we getting brave? Well, it's all around the basics of our life, of our daily life, of our work and our health. What's our service? What are we contributing? How are we exchanging? How are we getting fed, nourished, improved, grown, expanded, right? It has to do very much with our tangible earthly connections to this 3-dimensional world. Because we're talking about the lower part of the chart, the astrology chart. We're talking about the 6th house, right? And we're talking about Capricorn, which is a very grounded energy. It's very rooted inside of where are we going? It is family oriented. It is loyalty based. It is transforming and delving deep. It's the sea goat, right? So it's watery earth to a degree, right? So come back out here, and so that's where our Capricorn is sitting at. And Capricorn is having lots of different conjunctions all over the place out here with Uranus, and again up in here and through Neptune. So there's a lot of things bumping into. There's a lot of business going on. See all those lines hopping everywhere? Those are all lines of communication that are essentially happening around us, right? So that 70% neutrino stream is being impacted and bouncing around and kind of picking up and collecting energy. Imagine a mirror being you know, flash from one energy to another energy, and then there's another mirror over here that pings it over here. And that's kind of like a way that my brain sees how aspects work. And so we can make sense of why those or how those energies are pinging all around, and whether or not we want to actually get into all of the details of it, because let's just be real, it's a lot, right? Sometimes it's helpful just to kind of like come back to a deep simplicity, like how simple can we make it? Oh, let's look at the simplicity of the shadow of struggle. And so that's a way of being able to see, like, oh, if I have a fight with no purpose, well, I'm gonna be a victim of my own belief that I have to struggle. That struggle is a way of life for me. This is going to affect my habits and be affected by my habits, right? So if we want to struggle less, then we need to address our dilemma of habits, whatever that might mean, right? Looking at it from the defeatist to aggressive states. Where do we become aggressive in our struggling? Where we become volatile, where we have outbursts, where we get angry, where we lose it. And it's not about judgment, it's about recognition. These shadows are not a thing to shame. They are a thing to recognize. And the repressive side is defeatist, where we're just like, oh, does it even really matter? Does anything really even matter? Right? So it can be a lot. and the gift aspect of this is perseverance, the indomitable spirit of the underdog, being able to love obstacles because they increase our strength. They give us an exposure to experience that without them we wouldn't have. And then it's the essence, that acidic energy that is sort of feeding this journey, and that ultimately this journey of moving from struggle to perseverance entails is the energy of honor, living your individual truth, right, for all. And so it's a big ask. It's definitely a big ask, and we are, that's what we might be feeling down here. Is we might be feeling a little provoked. We might have problems with our attitude and our altitude. So our attitude, right, like how we perceive things and look at things, and the altitude. What is the altitude of your attitude? If your altitude is way up here and you're flying high and you're on this high flying disc, and you've got, you wake up in the morning and maybe you have a hitch, and you recognize, oh, that's a fear pattern. I don't want to be in that. Okay. Is that fear trying to tell me anything that I should be paying attention to? Am I missing anything? Check, double check. No? Wonderful. Turn the alarm clock off. That is the fear, and move into something, right? Don't let it become that. That's different. You're choosing an altitude. And so your attitude, you can choose your attitude and you can choose your altitude. So the higher, the more expanded your attitude and the higher your altitude, the more you can see beyond the chaos. And so it's a place where it's like, okay, we might feel like we're getting beat around the bush down here on this plane. And this is one of the tools inside of our toolbox that we can pull out and wield anytime we want to. Wanting to make a note here that these house informations might not be fully accurate. Those are the same ones from last month. So some of them have absolutely changed and others have not. Something I noticed and didn't want people to feel confused. Okay, let's see what else feels important to talk about. Moon is something that changes every single day. It changes about every 11 hours. Right now we're in 41, and so we're inside of that realm of beginnings. 41 is the one that starts off so this means the moon is starting again at the beginning, so to speak. Yeah, it's the start of the rave, I Ching, fantasy and anticipation. So that'll be in play, might even be out, as we get off this call. It might be winding down to a close, and has been a good time to ponder and think about the aspects of what it is that we can lean into and feel a lightness around being inspired by, and having that energy help to carry us into a new way and a new beginning. 41 is one of the start codons. So it helps to start off the whole next sequence of things. So being deeply present whenever gate 41 is around can be a really nourishing thing as we are starting things new. Our nodes are still in 25 and 46. They've been here for a little bit. They'll be here through most of the winter. You know, they're offering us lessons with constriction and seriousness, where we're not able to look at our own pain, and life is serious business, no joking. You know, or like we're cut off from our sense of lightness, and we're also cut off from our ability to look at what's wrong. And so we're our nodes, right? Our north node is like where, when we're talking about transit energy, north node is a little bit like where the energies around you are interested in trying to guide you. Now, do not forget, you have your own north node energy. Find your north node in your chart. If you're looking at your human design chart, you're going to have two of them. You're going to have a design side and a personality side. If you're looking at your astrology chart, you're only going to have what you would see in the human design side is called personality. It's only the, if you're looking at your human design chart, the astrology chart is only the right-hand side of the human design. And north node. So look at your north node. What is yours? And then what's the transit? How is your north node, my north node, being affected? What is the pull? So it's two north nodes that are push pulling. So it can be very variable, right? Nodal energy lasts for about 3 months at a time, and it goes in and out of a form of retrograde. Nodes are not planets. They are places and placements in the sky that we take note of. They are the north and south poles of the moon, right? And so sometimes then they call the north and south node going into a retrograde period, and that's because of how the moon orbits and its pole moves and shifts. So sometimes it is in a retrograde phase, and we don't necessarily pay too much attention to those. So if you start to play with nodal energy and you look into it more, you might find this energy that kind of feels like charging forward into the new, and then having a quick pause and a review, and then taking off forward again. And that's kind of like that energy of very quickly, you know, spending 1 week in a retrograde and then a week and a half in forward progression, and then 1 week in retrograde and a week and a half in forward progression. So it's a lot of little steps in a quick kind of way. And right now, this nodal energy is inviting us into the gifts of understanding acceptance and delight. And these are really delightful. One's in the G center. Actually, they're both in the G center. And they are a deep part of what it means to come into relationship with ourselves as a being, what it means to fall in love with ourselves. So this nodal energy of the moon, all of those moon influences, that moon gate, every time that moon gate changes, it's being influenced with this nodal energy. And so it can be a delightful thing to play with that energy of the moon, that remember those poles of the moon, as that moon's working through its different gates, its poles are actually giving us these augments of, okay, let's lens stack this. What is the acceptance and delight that we could have with anticipation? Here's another one. What is the acceptance and delight that we could have with our fantasies? How can we use anticipation when we get stuck in constriction and our seriousness? And so being able to lens stack those in different ways might help to unlock pieces that might otherwise not be visible to ourselves. I'm going to jump really quick down to Mercury because that's pinging on my brain. One of the reasons why that working, as I was just describing it, is kind of like a backwards energy. I'm making note of it here with Mars because Mars is in retrograde. I'm going to change this because it's going to drive my brain nuts. 12th house. So Mars is in retrograde in the 12th house in the sign of Leo right now. On January 6th, it's going to move into Cancer. So let me just set the stage here for you for a second. We're going to pop over to this. Actually, I'm going to show you where it is in the images first. All right. So Moon right over here on the left-hand side, right on the cusp here with Leo, just about ready to go into Cancer. It's going retrograde, so it's moving this way. It's going to move into Cancer, stay in Cancer for a little while, come back through Leo, right? Mars moving this closely between first house and 12th house. It's sitting right on that cusp between the deepest possible spirituality that is so far out there that you're not even rooted as a human being, and being so fully human being that you're not even in touch with anything beyond your own self. And that's kind of what's being tiptoed with. That's one layer. Another layer is that 12th house and Mars. So Mars, ruled by Aries, right? Planet of fire, planet of war. It's very sharp. It's like we're going to battle. We're dealing with our conflicts. We're dealing with our challenges. I'm going to scroll up here just for a second so you can see Mars energy. Conflict, growth opportunities, symbol of force, of immature human energy, until it takes in the lessons as wisdoms. Right? We can take in lessons and spit them out going, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not mine. That's not mine. That's your fault. That's your fault. That's because of this. That's because of this. And until we swallow them and go, where's the lesson for me? Mars is always angry. Mars is always defensive, and or Mars can be very fearful. This can be where we fight, flight, freeze, fawn, react in those places that make us inauthentic. Mars is challenging us into our authenticity. You know, it is the thing that is often responsible for our behavior inside of conflict situations. It's one of the reasons why touchstones has become such a deep delving piece that I've been playing with, doing a lot of writing inside the touchstone books and the imageries. It's because it's bringing up these conflicts to be seen very, very clearly. And so as we are, scoot back here real quick to this chart that can be seen easily. As we play with Mars and Leo in this 12th house, it can be really helpful if you are a person, I mean, if you're here in this channel and you're listening to this, I imagine you are a person who has interest in delving. And if you have interest in delving and you want to play with this in a personal kind of way, I invite you to pull your human design chart, and I invite you to pull your astrology chart. I'll include links to both of those in the description when I post this. And I invite you to pull both charts, and maybe I'll include this one sheet that we're looking at here, and you can put in there which house your signs are in, which gate keys are involved. We'll run through some examples, or I will post a demonstration. Because one of the things that when there are planets that are in this kind of placement, so Mars is a very up close and personal planetary placement. Mars is retrograde. Mars is in an uncomfortable placement, right? It's very fiery and it's in the house of water. It's very uncomfortable in that place. And it's also in the sign of fire. It's in Leo, and then it's going to go into Cancer, which is water, and then it's going to come back to Leo, which is fire. And so we as humans are going to get to learn to feel what it is like to move quickly, and yet not so quickly, because this is going to be happening between now and April. It's going to be moving back and forth through this time period. We're going to get to feel what it is like to alchemize inside of our being this fiery kind of rage. We might find ourselves getting really worked up, getting really angry about things, feeling annoyed and justified and righteous, right? And I'm not saying any of these things are wrong, because goodness gracious, anger is not a negative thing. None of our emotions are negative things. That's not how we work with emotions here in this school. We honor the emotions as being teachers, as being guides. We also honor that emotions are not the end-all be-all of truth. They are moments and experiences along the path, and that it is our job and responsibility to honor them in ourselves and with each other. It's also our job to have good boundaries with them, with ourselves and with each other, in ways that serve in a really yummy and soul calling way, right? So we get to have our cake and eat it too. As Raine would say, we just need to make multiple. cakeries, you know, like it might take some time to build the expansiveness of what we might need. And that's what the 12th house is here to show us, is that we can have it all. It already all exists. It's already there. It's a matter of it coalescing. It's a matter of it coming up from the surface. It's a matter of it being, you know, born out of the flames. So like some of this energy here is like, you know, so two imageries that come to mind. One is a watery world rising up out of the waters, and the water draining away from it and it coming back to life because it's no longer submerged. Would be kind of like the movement of moving from Cancer back into Leo. This like, oh, release of all of that water and that movement of coming back up for air. What we're going into next is the going into the fire, right? So that's the other way around. That's like being born through the phoenix. That's like allowing oneself to burn up, burning up in the fires of our own alchemical journey. That means whatever's coming up for you, whatever it is that's coming up, is fodder. Sometimes that can be really crazy making. It's one of the places that I find a grounding is to bring my lived experience, right? My walked terrain of my map, which is very different than the topographical, astrological maps, human design maps, and gene key maps, and all those. Those are topographical, right? Those are places where I make notes of things, but I need to come from my own world. And I invite you each to come from your own world. And when you note your pieces and parts of where things are, like look for your sun. Find your sun in the astrology chart and look at where the sun is in your human design chart. Right-hand column, top number, the one before the decimal point. That is the gate of your sun sign. Find the sun on your astrology chart and put it on this little map here and put the number of the gate next to it. And you'll find yourself learning a lens stacking. If you find that you want help with this process or you want to be in a community that does this kind of stuff, you're welcome to come join us inside of a meeting of the Crossroads or in Roots membership. We have a lot of fun with this for those of us that enjoy delving in this way. I'm going to come back to the transits here. Okay, so that's Mars. So Mars is really giving us a deep opportunity to study our own process of spiritual delving, to look where do we keep our secrets? It's a really great, simple way of looking at it. Go see what exists in your 12th house. Maybe you don't have any planets in the 12th house. You'll have a sign in the 12th house. See what sign is there. What is opposite of it. So if it's in the 12th house, what's in the 6th house? Because oppositions, they always have an intersecting relationship, whether or not there's something in that house or not. So a way to be able to play with the transits now with one's own charts and lived experiences. So Mars is going to be doing this fun dance in and out between now and April. And then just as soon as Mars finishes its dance, Venus is going to be going into retrograde. So be aware that there's this movement. Now, Venus's retrograde tends to be much more chill. Venus tends to be much more cool, where Mars runs hot. So very different kinds of energies, right? We'll be retrograding through kinds of relationships, where right now we're retrograding through places of conflict and growth, and stuff from the past is coming up, and current frustrations and things that we wish would change, and stuff that has happened for years and we're finally just done. That's a lot of what this energy is right now. So if you're feeling that way, know that you're in really good company. It's happening to a lot of us. It's kind of it's time, right? In some ways, this is a bit of a cosmic reset. As we step deeper and deeper into the way this world is going to flow in these coming times, come January 20th, come, the different revealings of things as they flow and as they happen. There's a bit of a training grounds that we're in. It's one of the reasons why it says, welcome to Boot Camp Earth up here. Mel.
My name is Raine Ford. I am an herbalist and InnerCartographer, founder of Nemeton and Mountain Woman Medicine. If you are interested in purchasing herbal medicines or discovering your inner mapping, please visit my website in the description below. Have a wonderful day, beautifuls.